Well, this is a new one for me. As many of you know, I absolutely love my barbel fishing, and I'm really at home fishing rivers such as the Kennet, the Loddon, and the last few years the Hampshire Avon and the River Thames. Now, I've caught an awful lot of big fish from these venues. However, the fishing can be quite intense. You have to put an awful lot of effort into catching those big fish. So today, you find me on a completely new river, and that is the River Wye. Now, I've never caught a barbel from this river, so it's going to be a really exciting day, and it's something that I've been looking forward to for weeks. Now, the journey from my Basingstoke home, it only took a couple of hours. It was ever such a simple drive, and I left very, very early, and as the sun was rising, it was beautiful driving through the Wye Valley. Now, I'm here today on the Angling Dreams Lower Hillcourt fishery. It's an absolutely wonderful stretch, and the scenery is just incredible. So the first thing that I've done when I've arrived at the venue is I've had a good look along and probably taken a couple of hours out of my day just to familiarise myself with the stretch and the swims. Now, this is very, very different from the rivers that I'm used to fishing, so I do feel a little bit out of my comfort zone. So I feel that this time has been spent very, very wisely. Now, I've identified some beautiful swims, maybe 3 or 4 along this stretch, and to me, they just look like absolute textbook barbel swims. And by that, I mean that they've got some beautiful features above or below shallows, and some of them have got overhanging trees that provide cover for the fish, and they just look absolutely perfect. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head downriver, probably only a third of the way down the stretch. There's a beautiful swim down there where it's got a lovely glide of deep water, shallows above and below, and more importantly, there's a lovely overhanging tree on the inside. Now, I'm pretty sure that that overhanging tree is going to produce some lovely cover for the fish, but if they're not sat under that tree, then just above the shallows, I'm pretty sure there'll be fish about. Now, whether these are going to be barbel and chub, I don't really know. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to head down there, make a cast, and see if we can catch my first River Wye barbel. So this is the first swim that I've decided to fish. In my eyes, this is a textbook barbel swim. So we've got shallows just above us, and we've got a lovely sort of walking pace flow at the river at the moment. And then just below us again, we've got an overhanging tree that comes out, I'd say quite a way actually, sort of 30, 40 feet. And as the flow's coming down here, it's sort of hitting the tree and then deflecting it out again. And as it deflects out, probably for, I'd say a good sort of 60 to 80 yards, there's then sort of a shallow sort of run there as well. So I'm really expecting there to be fish congregated in between these two areas. And what I'm hoping to do here is to cast probably a third of the way across the river, but down towards this lovely sort of overhanging tree here. I'm expecting fish to either be around that shallow area just before it, or sat under this lovely sort of cover that's on the inside, or it could be both. So I'm expecting barbel and chub to be there, but it just looks, in my eyes, although I've never fished a River Wye before, the experience that I have built up over the years, this looks an absolute gem of a swim. I'm just going to run through with you the methods and the tackle that I'm going to be using down the River Wye. Now, they are very, very different to sort of the tackle and the tactics that I would use on, say, the Hampshire Avon or the River Thames. They're pretty much polar opposites in styles of barbel fishing. Now, starting off with the rod, I've got what I would describe as an Avon style rod. So it's 1 3/4 pound test curve, and it is ideally suited to the feeders that I'll be using today. But what I really, really like about these rods is just the action on them, so they've got a lovely progressive action, and they're just an absolute joy to play fish on. Now, the reel I've got is my standard 50-10 bait runner. I use it for pretty much all my barbel fishing. I've used them for many, many years, and I found them absolutely bulletproof, so I'm not going to change that at all. Now, the main line is quite interesting. This is a new main line from Garden Target. It's based on our Hydra Tough main line that I know a lot of you have used. It's super, super abrasion resistant, this stuff. And that's really, really important because there are lots and lots of rocks out in this river. So if the fish do go behind them, this stuff is going to cope with it. What's also very good about it is it knots really, really well. And it sinks, so not only for your barbel fishing, so if you're tench fishing weedy venues, it's going to be great for that too. Now, I'm using it in 12 pound. It does come in other breaking strains that are lower than that, 6, 8 and 10, but 12 pound today is going to give me a lot of security if I do hook one of these white barbel. Now, just moving down here, I've got a 3-ounce cage feeder. Now that's going to suit the flow absolutely perfectly. And what I've done is I've packed this with a fish meal ground bait mix from Blake's, and I've added quite a lot of water to the mix and generous amounts of hemp and horizon pellets, and I'm packing this at the top and the bottom of the feeder. Now this ground bait here is going to create a lot of scent and a lot of attraction in the water, so what I'm hoping here is we've got a lovely shallow area below us and a big snag that comes out. Now, I'm hoping by regularly introducing these, sort of recasting these 15-20 minutes, it's going to build up a big flavour trail in the river. It's going to carry it down with the flow, and I'm hoping that that's going to pull these barbel up. I'm pretty confident they're sitting either in this tree here or just above the shallows. Now, what you'll notice in this feeder is in the middle, there's a generous helping of 6mm oily pellets. So what's going to happen is this feeder's going to hit the bottom, the ground bait's gradually going to break out, go down with the flow, and then these pellets are going to come out too. So there's loads and loads of attraction there. And this isn't fished on a leg clip at all. I've just got this simply running up and down the main line. And this sort of sits against a Target XL buffer bead. That just protects the knot on the swivel. And what's really good about these buffer beads is that they're just a lot longer than standard buffer beads. So that helps with anti-tangle, but what it also does is I've got a size 12 Target quick lock swivel on there, and they're really, really good because it helps me change the hook links really quickly and simply, and then that buffer bead just sheaves the whole lot, so they're a really nice little bit of kit, those. And then moving down to the hook link, I've got about, I would say, between 2.5 and 3 foot of 10-pound Target fluorocarbon. Now, I'm a massive fan of fluorocarbon hook links when I'm barbel fishing, and particularly when you're faced with clear water conditions. They just sit perfectly, but they're just a lot less obtrusive, I would say, when they're sitting on the bottom. And a really good tactic when using fluorocarbon hook links is to straighten them out. Now, they are put onto quite small spools, so what I like to do is take that memory out of it, just so they just sit really nice and straight and flush on the riverbed. And I think that these little percentages like that matter an awful lot in your fishing. Whether you're fishing for lots of bites or one bite, it's about those percentage games. So the way I do that is I simply just hook the hook into the butt ring and then tighten down just so the tip gently folds over, and just leave it for a couple of minutes or so, and then you'll find that it takes all that memory out. Now, moving down to the hook, I've got quite a small hook on here, sort of very small, I would say, in comparison to what I would use on the Thames and the Hampshire Avon. Generally, I would use like an 8 there, really, but I've gone down to a size 12. Now, I've got a size 12 Target specimen hook on here. They're very, very strong, these hooks, very, very sharp. So I know that if I do hook my first white barbel, these guys are going to cope with it, no problem at all. Now, I could have gone with a straight point hook pattern. They are really good for penetrating into the fish's mouths, but I don't think you can beat a beat point pattern when you're river fishing. I just think that we know the advantages, that lovely beak. They stay super, super sharp, and you really need sharp hooks when you're fishing. And then coming down to the hair, we've got a really short hair here really. So the hook bait I've got is an 8mm pellet. It's just sitting off of the bend of the hook. And I've gone for a small hook bait just because I think something like a 14 or a 15mm pellet is going to be a little bit obvious to these fish. They do get fished for a little bit. So I'm hoping that that's going to sort of gain their confidence that they're picking up the 6mm. You've not got a whacking great hook bait on there. They're going to pick that up with no problem at all. Tip will go round, and I'm hoping that this rig here is going to count for my first white barbel. Well, I'm just about to make my first cast, and there's a lot of fish showing just above the shallows. There's a big fly hatch going on, so I'm not quite sure what they are, but it's looking really promising for a bite. Oh. I'd say chub, but good fish. Feels really good. That's a lovely fish. That feels lovely in the flow. Just holding there. I reckon this is potentially a really good chub. It's not shot off like a barbel. I would have thought a barbel would have shot off. Staying nice and deep. Lovely fight. And what a beautiful place. It is a barbel. Now if we can slip this in the net, this will be my first white barbel. And my first barbel of the season. Here we go. Cool. Brilliant. Mate, I'm chuffed with that. First white barbel. Beautiful fish. Lovely colours. Well, here we go. My first barbel from the Y. Absolute stunning fish. Beautiful colours on them. Really, really good fight. And we've only been in the swim sort of half an hour or so, so really, really promising. But we're just going to slip this fish back. It's quite warm today, but amazing fish. My first barbel of the season. Lovely start on the Y. Just a lovely steady pull round. bang in there in the flow. Just see it under the surface there. Lovely golden shape. Here's my second ever riverwide barbel, an absolutely beautiful fish and wonderful colours on it. It gave a great account of itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip this one back and then we're going to head up river and try a couple of other swims. Right, I've just arrived in the second swim, and before I head down and make a cast, I've just knocked up a fresh bit of ground bait. Now, I'm using this ground bait today to plug the feeder and hold the 6mm pellets in place. So my base of my mix is green betaine from Blake's. It's a really oily ground bait, and what I'm looking to do with this is get as much of traction into the fish meal with this ground bait, so the flavour trails head off downstream and pull the fish up to the hook bait. So I've got a good amount of that green betaine pellet in there, and I've added a good amount of crushed horizon pellets. Again, they're really, really oily. So I've mixed that all together really thoroughly, and I've added as much hemp juice as I can into there, giving it a good stir, again adding more attraction. To that, I've added, I'd say, a couple of scoops of hemp. Everyone knows barbel love hemp, so that has to go in my mix. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it rest for sort of 10 minutes, let the oil and the water absorb into that ground bait, get it to a really good consistency, so it's going to plug those feeders and hold the pellet in place. So I'm going to head on down there now. I'm going to pop my waders on and wade out. There's a lovely gravel area out there that's nice and shallow with some deeper water off the back of it. And I'm pretty sure it's going to hold another fish or two, and hopefully I'm going to catch another barbel. Chub, I'd say, but it feels all right. Or it could be a barbel. No, it's a barbel. Oh, barbel. This is an absolute textbook swim. We've got shallows above us and lovely pacey glide, but with some depth, and then some shallows below us. And we had a look at this swim this morning, and literally cast the feeder out, and I reckon it's been out there no more than probably 90 seconds. I'm definitely more at home on venues such as the Thames. Love that, but when you're playing fish in this environment, absolutely brilliant. I don't think you can beat it.
here's a prime example of a lovely river wide barbel. Absolutely beautiful fish. We just moved into a new swim, stood out onto a nice shallow area in the middle of the river, dropped the rig straight into some deeper water straight off the back of it, and I reckon it took no more than 90 seconds. Holding the rods, tip pulled round, and this was the result. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, the light's beginning to fade and I've had a brilliant day's fishing here on the River Wye. I'm very pleased that I managed to catch my first barbel from this river. We tried several other swims afterwards, however they resulted in lots and lots of chub. But who can complain? Playing these hard fighting fish in this lovely scenery and the great backdrops like the one behind me has been fantastic. And one thing's for sure, I'll be turning to this river very soon.